Oh, it all makes perfect sense. Expressed in dollars and cents, pounds, shillings, and pence. That was my Roger Waters impression for the day. Hello, welcome to episode 390 of Prog Review. And today, if you read the title and description, I'm talking about Amused to Death by Roger Waters. This was originally released back in the 7th of September 1992. My goodness. The reason I'm doing it now is because I don't know if it's next week, they're reissuing it and it's going to be different. Apparently there's new mixes and new just adjusting me levels and new bits and stuff, so I thought I'd go back and listen to the original and talk about it. Of course, talk about it. And Amused to Death is a concept album, and it's a very, very, very broad concept album. It brings in lots of elements. When I first heard it back in the day, it didn't really do anything for me. I just kind of it just went over me. I just went, because it was just Roger Waters going on about stuff again, the war and money and his dad and, the usual things. And then, let me think, 11 years later, 2003, I think it was, when we decided to go back to Iraq, because again, this album was concerned the original Iraq war. I listened to it again and I thought, bloody hell, it's more relevant now than it's ever been. And again, listening to it now, in 2015, it's still utterly relevant. And that's unusual because, some albums fall in and out of fashion. But this one, it's pretty much Waters' best thing. It's the best thing he's done. It's just because of its longevity and because it stands up very, very well. It starts with the Ballad of Bill Hubbard, and it's about what's it about? It's a story of World War One, and about a soldier trying to get his mate across no man's land. He's been injured. And Bill Hubbard is the soldier who's injured, and I think it's Alf. Is it Alf? He can't move him, and so he leaves him behind in no man's land, and it haunts him for years. And that's how the album starts. I say this isn't a happy clappy, hooray kind of album. It's hard going, and I found it hard going this morning. But that, this is where music becomes more powerful. Again, the music on this isn't particularly that good. It's pretty generic, generic rock and roll, and you hear bits of the Floyd and you hear stylistic bits of the lyrics. You've really got to concentrate on the message and what Mr. Waters is saying. And then that leads us into What God Wants Part 1, and that's there's 3 parts to it. And again, it's one of those list songs about the various things that God wants. Now, I see the way I read it, being a good atheist, man created God in his own image, and so it's what man wants. That's how I read the song, because we are our own God. We are our own God in our own heaven, in our own universe, and it's basically a litany of the things that blight us, really. the good and the bad, or good, bad, and the ugly. And that leads into Perfect Sense again. And again, this is really relevant to now, because now everything we do, I mean, even us as a people have been, we are a commodity. We have a value placed on us. We have an expected value. And if you're, every child now is worth so much and will accrue so much debt by the time they leave university. And that's what we are now. We are just price tags. And again, this is what Perfect Sense addresses. Our entire world and everything is just drawn down to the money. It's all about the money and the lowest common denominator. It's a race to the bottom. Again, and this idea is put over 2 songs. And again, we've got the interesting thing about Perfect Sense Part 2 is the first Gulf War was the first Gulf War that was ever played out on television. And now that's even more relevant. I mean, there's you hear a sportscast of someone narrating, someone with a gun like a sniper taking shots as if it was a baseball game. And again, that's so relevant to now, because now you can go on the internet and you can see what I don't know what they call themselves this week, Islamic State. They put GoPros on the end of their guns, so you can see them getting their own brains blown out as they play peekaboo, because they're not proper trained soldiers. And so everything is, like I say, immediate. We're on TV. Again, TV plays a major part of this album. He says, look, TV, the eye staring back at the monkey. We are the monkey. We're also God. It's trying to make sense of the world through our television sets. And again, the bravery of being out of range. We see these events going on around us and we're disconnected because we're there and we're not. Wish you were here. Absence. This again, familiar themes that are coming back. Late Home Tonight. Again, first Gulf World War is where we saw fighter jets being sent across vast distances, bombing and then heading back, and they could cover great distances. And Being Home Late Tonight is about the fighter pilots' wives waiting for them. We'll replace the fighter pilots now with drones and remote bombing, and it's all there for you. It's like I say, it's depressing. It's depressing because the more time's gone on, nothing has changed. And what's the line? The Germans kill the Jews, and the Jews kill the Arabs, and the Arabs killed the hostages, and folks, this is the news. And that's where we're at. Nothing has changed, and that's a lyric from the album. I'm getting depressed just thinking about it again. Again, we go back with more of what God wants. Watching TV, you have the history of China, communist China, Tiananmen Square, through to Chairman Mao and everything. And again, a fascinating little ditty in a love song about a girl who's gone missing. 3 Wishes. Again, Roger wants his dad back, and the highlight of the piece is It's a Miracle, where a certain composer, Andrew Lloyd Webber, has his fingers chopped off by a piano because Roger Waters never really forgiven him for nicking Echoes, the theme, the main melody line from Echoes for Phantom of the Opera. Da 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 da. I'm the Phantom of the Opera. You can do it. You know. Yeah. Oh, keep the mask on, Darren. And then it rounds off with Amused to Death, and it is a bleak, uncompromising work of abject bloody misery. There is no light in this album. There is no upside. It's looking into the abyss, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing because you get to think. It gives you time to think about how everything's gone wrong. It's a criminally overlooked album, I think. Again, if only this had been made with Pink Floyd. If only, because the music would have been so much more, and the lyrics would have stood up, and it would have been the trilogy of Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, and Amused to Death, the perfect Roger Waters trilogy, because they all kind of dovetail with each other. And yeah, I mean, it's funny how, like I said, for me, it's funny how I didn't really warm to it when I heard it the first time, and it took a good few years. It took me, this, like I said, it was only like I don't know how many times it would have been, but when I heard it in 2003, the penny dropped, and it dropped with a big clang. And again, it's not an album I've listened to a great deal. I've not even listened to this, I don't know, 10 times, but I know it. It just went in. Like I played it a good few times back when it was released, didn't go in. And in 2003, it went in. But like I said, it's not something that I'd necessarily sit down and enjoy and put my feet up. It's something to put on and reflect upon. Because it is a bloody miserable album. And you do wonder, where the fucking hell are we going? You know, and it's not helping my mood at the moment because I'm a little, got a touch of the black dog, because the way the world is and the way things are going. And to put this on and confront this again, you know, it was a tough one. It's a tough one. You know, Harris, what a sensitive little flower I am. But yeah, I mean, it is a great record. It really is a great record. But again, purely for the lyrics and for the, you know, the actual narrative that's presented here. And in the end, at the end of Amused to Death, we finally find out what happens, and Alf goes and finds Bill Hubbard's grave. So he was found, and I think he found it in that 1984 or whatever it was. And all those years he'd worried, and it had plagued him, and he felt at rest because of him leaving that guy in no man's land. And it's that burden that you carry, isn't it? There are things that we all experience that we carry with us. Obviously, not as grand and as that, but you can carry these things a long time. And yeah, Amused to Death, and that's what we're doing now, because we have all this social media and the internet and multiple ways of accessing movies and music and video games and whatnot, and we're totally and utterly distracted from what's really going on. And that's a great shame, because I don't know, they're gonna make us all pay eventually, because can't you see, it all makes perfect sense, expressed in dollars and cents, pounds, shillings and pence. Never truer word has been written or sung. In terms of a rating, I'm giving this 5 monkeys out of 5. That's 5 monkeys out of 5. Because it is Roger Waters' finest hour. You know, he pissed around with the other 2 albums, but this one, he nailed it. Knocked it out of the park. And it's just a strong work. And even though he does, you know, revisit a few themes, we'll let him have that. We'll let him have that. And some of the music isn't exactly, you know, it's a bit generic, but we'll let him have that. But yeah, powerful. And it just seems like as more time goes on, the more bloody relevant it is. And that's weird. But it's that same timelessness I was saying about Dark Side of the Moon when I did that one. But anyway, I've spoken enough, he said. I've spoken enough. In case you didn't know, in case you didn't realise, I've been talking about Roger Waters' Amused to Death album, released way back in 1992. Thank you for watching. My name's been Darren Locke. Only one more thing to say, and you know what that is, and that is prog on.